Welcome to Karma Chronicles. Please like the video and subscribe. Let's begin. I was tying my boots when the text came in. "You're wearing that to your wedding? Disgraceful." No punctuation, just those 6 words from my father, and it hit like a punch to the gut. Sharp, fast, and exactly what I expected. My name's Rachel. I'm 33 years old. I live in Richmond, Virginia. Today's my wedding day, and I'm wearing a pressed white paramedic uniform with gold pins, polished boots, and my name tag dead center over my heart. Not a dress, not some frilly veil. Because this uniform, this is the only white I've ever earned. I stood up from the edge of the bed in the guest room at my father's estate. The house was dead quiet, like everyone was afraid to move too loudly in case it triggered some kind of emotional tripwire. Typical. The air always felt heavy in this house, like something unspoken was crawling up the walls. I stared at myself in the mirror, starched collar, metal bar, gleaming. I'd worn this exact uniform when I was promoted last fall after pulling 2 kids out of a collapsed bridge during a flood. I earned those bars in blood, sweat, and more hours than anyone will ever count. It took me 12 years to move up the ranks, mostly surrounded by men who either doubted me or silently watched to see when I'd break. But I never did. I worked twice as hard just to be seen half as capable. And now I was walking down the aisle in this, not to prove anything, but because this is me. This is who I am. Quick note, before we go on, share where you're watching from today. I picked up my phone again and stared at my dad's text. My hand didn't even flinch. I didn't type anything back. I just locked the screen and slid the phone into my jacket pocket. Let him choke on his disappointment. He'd probably hoped I'd cave, that I'd come crawling in tears asking for help finding a dress or asking for his blessing. But I didn't need either. I had Noah. Noah got it from the beginning. He's calm, easy. A trauma nurse who works night shifts and never once made me feel like I had to soften my edges for his sake. When I told him I was walking down that aisle in uniform, he just smiled and said, "Damn right you are." I took one last look in the mirror, smoothed my jacket, and squared my shoulders. Time to go. I walked out of the guest room and down the long hallway toward the back door. I didn't bother looking into his study. I knew he wouldn't be there. Even if he was, he wouldn't look up. That was always the game with my father. Discipline over warmth. Respect over relationship. Growing up under Robert Taylor was like living in a boot camp with nicer wallpaper. Everything had rules. How you stood, how you spoke, how you folded your damn laundry. My 2 brothers got used to it early. They saluted, fell in line, and signed up for the Navy the second they turned 18. Just like Dad, just like Grandpa. I was the outlier. The girl who was always being reminded to keep her voice down and her elbows off the table. When I turned 15 and told him I wanted to go into emergency medicine, he laughed. Not a full laugh, more like a sharp exhale with judgment baked in. "Not cut out for it," he said. "You're too soft. You don't follow orders. You'd fall apart in the field." What he meant was, I wasn't one of the boys. He never came to my high school graduation, said he had a work trip. I knew he just didn't want to sit there pretending he was proud. But when I turned 18, I packed my bag, left a note on the kitchen counter, and took the early bus to Norfolk to start paramedic training. I didn't call him. He didn't call me. Months went by in silence. I still remember the first week of training, running drills with a 100-pound dummy in the August heat, my legs cramping, heart pounding, but I didn't stop. I wanted to quit so bad, but quitting would have proven him right. He never said he was proud, never even asked how it was going. I kept reaching out, emails, short calls, even a birthday card, but nothing. Just that same silence like I didn't exist. It took me a long time to stop chasing his approval. Noah helped with that. We met 6 years ago at a trauma response seminar. I'd just been made team lead, and he was there teaching airway stabilization. Tall, lean, not loud or pushy like the guys I usually worked with. He watched the room more than he talked. Afterward, he asked if I wanted coffee. I said no. He didn't press, just nodded and said, "Rain check then." 2 weeks later, we ran into each other during a multiple casualty call. Car pileup, 6 injured, 1 DOA. We worked side by side for over an hour. No ego, no friction, just pure focus. Afterward, I handed him a cup of gas station coffee and said, "Rain check's over." He never tried to change me, never told me to smile more or dress softer or stop working so much. He liked the hard parts, the calloused hands, the clipped speech, the grit under my nails. He once told me, "You walk into chaos like it's your job to tame it. That's not something you learn. It's who you are." With him, I don't feel like I'm constantly proving myself. I don't brace for judgment. I still think about my dad sometimes, how he used to sharpen his uniform buttons like metals, how he polished his boots even when no one was watching. He lived for the rules, for the approval of men just like him. But I'm not him. I built something different. I stood by the back door and looked out at the trees swaying in the wind. I didn't feel small anymore, not scared, not trying to earn my place. I had it, and I earned it without him. I stepped out the back door and into the morning light. It was just past 10, and the sun was already beating down like it had something to prove. The chapel wasn't far, about a quarter mile down the hill from the estate, tucked behind a line of oaks. Simple brick, white trim, old wooden doors. My boots hit the pavement with steady weight, every step locking me in. I could feel my pulse thudding in my collar. Halfway there, I heard it. Boots behind me. I turned. 6 paramedics, 3 firefighters, all in full dress uniform, falling in step like a damn honor guard. I stopped. You guys seriously doing this? Maya, one of my oldest partners, looked me dead in the eye. You think we're letting you walk in there alone? I blinked. You weren't even invited. Didn't need one, Jackson grinned. You led us into burning houses and 10-car pileups. We're not missing this. I tried to answer, but my throat locked up, so I turned back toward the chapel and kept walking. The gravel lot was full, cars packed tight, people already filing inside. But the moment our boots hit the front walk, everything slowed. We reached the front doors. The chapel manager opened them halfway, nodded once, and said, "You ready?" I nodded back. Then I froze. My team fanned out behind me, silent. Hands clasped, shoulders squared. Not a single one flinched. I'd walked into collapsed buildings, flipped semis, train wrecks. I'd seen people crushed, bleeding, screaming for help, and I handled it. But this moment, standing there about to walk down the aisle, this hit different. I thought about the first time I ran point on a multi-casualty scene. Car rolled into a river, 4 victims. I was 24. 2 of the guys on that scene were behind me now. I remembered hauling a teen through a broken window with glass cutting through my turnout gear. Remembered holding a mother's hand while her toddler took his last breath in the back of our rig. I'd survived all of it. Not just the calls, the doubt, the backhanded comments, the moments I got passed over for promotion in favor of guys who froze on scene. But I earned my place. Every scar, every commendation, every ounce of respect came with blood behind it. And these people knew it. That's why they showed up. Quick pause. Before we keep going, drop your city in the comments. Let us know where you're watching from. I adjusted the front of my jacket, squared my shoulders, and gave the nod. The chapel doors swung open. The entire room rose. First responders filled the pews. Rows of navy, white charcoal gray, uniforms sharp, boots polished, hands behind backs. The silence was louder than any cheer. Noah stood at the altar in his dress blues, still and calm, like always. But when our eyes met, he gave me this small, certain smile, like he knew exactly what this meant to me and exactly who wasn't there. I scanned the pews once, no sign of Robert Taylor, no stiff jaw in the corner, no military ribbons on display. Didn't matter, because the weight at my back wasn't shame, it was 20 years of earned respect, and it walked in with me. My boots echoed down the aisle, but in my head, all I could hear was his voice. Chin up, Rachel, straighten your spine. You're walking like you're embarrassed to be seen. That was him, my father, Robert Taylor, decorated Navy commander. No room for softness, no space for excuses. He never yelled, didn't have to. His silence hit harder than any belt ever could. He ran our house like a command post. Every morning was inspection. Beds made, floors swept, shoes lined up heel to toe. If your collar was crooked, if your answer came with hesitation, you earned a full hour of lecture. My brothers handled it better. They were built for his world. Broad-shouldered, obedient, quiet. I was the one who talked too much, cried when I was angry, pushed back when something didn't make sense. By 10, I learned to hide the softness. By 13, I stopped expecting hugs. The only person who ever made that house feel livable was my mom, Beth Taylor. 3rd grade teacher, quiet smile, soft voice, but made of steel underneath. She taught me how to listen, how to care. She held my hand when I bombed a math test, whispered, "You're more than this grade," when I came home shaking. But even she couldn't stand up to him when he made up his mind. I was 16 the night I told them I wanted to become a paramedic. We were sitting at dinner, chicken, green beans, that god-awful boxed cornbread he insisted we eat like it was some military ration. I'd spent all week researching emergency response careers and finally got the nerve. I think I want to join EMS, I said. The academy in Richmond has an early entry program. If I start prepping now, I can apply the day I turn 18. My mom smiled right away. That's wonderful, Rachel. I think you'd be incredible. He didn't even look up from his plate, just kept cutting his chicken. Then he said, "You're not tough enough for that kind of work." I remember going numb. "I am," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "It's what I want." He looked up then. Cold stare, tight jaw. "You'll quit before the first real shift. You don't belong in the field." My mom tried to step in. "Robert," but he cut her off with a glance. Conversation over. I cried that night, not because he didn't believe in me, but because deep down, I'd still wanted him to. When I turned 18, I packed my duffel and caught the early train to Richmond. My mom slipped a letter into my jacket pocket before I left. It just said, "No matter how loud his silence gets, I see you, and I'm proud of who you are." That letter stayed in my gear bag for years, through every rotation, every call, every overnight shift where I questioned whether I belonged. She passed away when I was 21, breast cancer, quiet and fast. My father didn't cry at the funeral, barely spoke. After that, the cold between us turned to ice. He never came to my academy graduation, never asked how I was doing. But I kept showing up, running calls, working doubles, climbing ranks. Because even when his voice rang in my head telling me I wasn't enough, hers was always louder. "You are more than this moment. You are more than his silence." And damn if she wasn't right. That night, back in our apartment, I sat on the couch with my legs tucked under me and the uniform jacket across my lap, the same one I'd wear in the morning. My phone sat face down on the coffee table, but I didn't need to look at it. I could still see the text. "You're wearing that to your wedding? Disgraceful." I'd read it 100 times. I could have deleted it the second it came through. Blocked his number, erased the moment. But I didn't. It wasn't about keeping score or holding on to the pain. It was about facing it, finally. He meant it, every word. Just like he'd meant it every time he told me I was too emotional, too stubborn, too reckless. And yeah, maybe I was all of those things. But I built something from it. I didn't need him to be proud. I just needed to stop hoping he might be. Noah came out of the bedroom barefoot, rubbing the back of his neck. "You still thinking about the text?" I didn't answer right away. He sat next to me, elbows on his knees, looking at the jacket in my lap. "You don't have to prove anything to him." "I know," I said, but my voice didn't come out strong. Noah leaned back and looked at me. "You want me to say something comforting, or you want the truth?" "Truth. You've already lived the life you wanted. You've done the hard part. Walking down that aisle tomorrow? That's just you showing up as yourself. That's the win." I nodded, but my jaw was tight. "You still wish he was coming?" he asked. I took a deep breath. "I wish he wanted to." Quick pause. "While you're listening, tell us which country you're watching from." Noah reached for my hand. "You know what I see when you put that jacket on?" I looked at him. "I see the woman who dragged a guy twice her size out of a burning apartment. The one who trained 6 new hires without losing her mind. The woman who makes this place feel like home after a crap shift." I didn't cry, but my throat burned. "Babe," he said, "we're not building our life around his silence. We're building it around what you've earned, and that's respect, love, and a whole lot of damn admiration." I squeezed his hand. For years, I'd kept one part of me waiting, just in case my father came around, just in case he showed up and said the words I'd chased my whole life. But that part didn't feel hollow anymore. It felt solid, closed. I wasn't walking down the aisle tomorrow hoping he'd change his mind. I was walking down that aisle exactly as I am. No apologies. I stood up, slung the jacket over my arm, and looked at myself in the hallway mirror. My reflection didn't flinch. I adjusted the front of my jacket, smoothed the collar, and squared my shoulders in the mirror. Then I turned, walked out of our apartment, and didn't look back. By the time I reached the chapel again, the sky had settled into a clean, sharp blue. No clouds, no wind, just still air and heat rising off the pavement. The others were already waiting. Maya gave a quick nod, and the group moved in behind me without a word. When we stepped up to the chapel entrance, I could hear the music low inside. Strings, soft and steady. The chapel manager looked to me for a signal. I gave it. He pulled both doors wide, and the world went silent. Everyone inside stood, full formation, row after row of first responders, sharp uniforms, pressed sleeves, hands folded behind their backs. Not a shuffle, not a cough, just pure, frozen respect. My boots hit the aisle, loud against the floor. One step, then another. Noah stood at the front, hands clasped, his navy dress blues crisp under the overhead lights. When his eyes met mine, he didn't smile, didn't tear up, just looked at me like I was something solid, something earned. Then it happened. A voice from the back row, clear and loud. "Admiral on deck!" The air snapped. Every uniformed person in that room came to attention in unison, backs straight, heads high. Not a military rank, not official. But in our field, in our station, that was the name they gave to the one who took the hits, called the shots, kept everyone breathing when hell broke loose. I never asked for it, never wanted a title. But I walked through too many fires, led too many crews, and never once left a man behind. So they gave me that name, and I carried it. Quick note, before we continue, share which city or country you're watching from. My eyes swept the room. No dress uniforms with navy ribbons, no folded arms at the back, no hard stare from my father. But I didn't feel the hole I thought I would, because this was earned, not handed down, not forced. Earned. Every person standing there had seen me in the trenches, pulling bodies out of wreckage, barking orders while knee-deep in floodwater, cracking ribs in back alleys trying to restart a heartbeat. They weren't honoring the daughter of some military officer. They were honoring me. I kept walking, eyes forward, the weight of it all pressing into my chest, but not in a way that crushed. It held me upright. Noah gave the slightest nod as I reached him. A small thing, but it said everything. We didn't need words, not now. Behind me, I could feel the air still tight with respect. And ahead of me, a life I'd built without compromise. I didn't need my father's shadow to disappear. I'd just outgrown it. After the ceremony, after the hugs and the handshakes, and the clapping on the back from people who'd seen me at my worst, I slipped into the empty bridal room, shut the door behind me, and pulled out my phone. One new message from Robert Taylor. "You're disgraceful." That was it. No congrats. No, "I watched from afar." Just those 2 words. For a second, my eyes just stared at the screen. I didn't flinch. I didn't get angry. I didn't even sigh. All I felt was cold. Not pain. Not heartbreak. Just cold clarity. His words didn't cut anymore. Because they didn't matter. Not after what I'd just walked through. Not after the room that had stood for me, with boots lined straight and eyes locked forward. Not after hearing Admiral on deck echo through a chapel full of people who'd seen me earn that title in ways he never could understand. He had no power left, just noise. Noah knocked lightly on the door and stepped in. "You good?" I held up the phone, showed him the message. He read it, blinked once, then handed it back. "So?" I shrugged. "So nothing." We sat down on the couch together side by side. No need to fill the silence. I thought about the wreck on I-95, the one with the overturned bus. 27 injured, 3 critical. I was first on scene, coordinated the response with nothing but a handheld radio and my crew at my back. We stabilized every patient. No fatalities. Or the house fire in Petersburg. Second floor collapsed, kid trapped in a closet. I crawled through a hole barely wide enough for my shoulders, pulled him out with smoke thick enough to choke a grown man unconscious. Or the week we lost 2 medics in a highway crash, and I still showed up the next day to cover their shifts. People don't clap for that kind of thing. There's no headline, no parade. But the people who were there remember. I remember. And when I looked at Noah, I saw it in his face too. "You know what I think?" he said. I raised an eyebrow. "I think you're the most stubborn, relentless, righteous pain in the ass I've ever loved." I smirked. That a compliment? The highest form. He reached over, squeezed my knee. "Seriously, he didn't break you. He just gave you something to push against." I sat with that. Let it sink in. He was right. My father never raised his voice. He just weaponized silence. Every missed birthday, every ignored call, every conversation that ended in disappointment. That's how he controlled the space. By pulling back, making me chase it. But today I didn't chase. I walked forward. Alone, maybe, but not empty. Quick check-in. What would you do if your parent sent you a message like that? Drop it in the comments. Noah leaned back, arms folded behind his head. You know what your legacy is, Rachel? Tell me. It's every kid you pulled out of a wreck, every trainee who didn't quit because you showed them how to stay, every time someone called 911 and got you on the other end. I stared at the message one more time, then locked the screen. Let him sit with his pride. Let him drown in it. I had nothing left to prove. A few years later, a plain envelope showed up in our mailbox, no return address. Just my name in blocky, all caps handwriting I hadn't seen in a while. I stood in the kitchen holding it like it might go off. Noah was across the room chopping onions, but when he saw my face, he wiped his hands and came over. He didn't ask, just nodded toward the envelope. Him? I nodded back. We didn't speak. I opened it. No card, no letterhead. Just a single sheet of paper folded twice. I unfolded it slowly. The handwriting was tight, controlled. My father's voice, trapped in ink. Rachel, I was wrong. I should have said that years ago. You've done more than I ever imagined, and I see that now. I don't expect anything, just wanted you to know. Dad. That was it. No explanation, no stories, no apologies for the years of silence, just those clipped, efficient lines. Noah leaned in, scanned the page, and raised an eyebrow. Well, damn. Robert Taylor using first names now. I half laughed, half scoffed. Took him long enough. I stared at the paper for a minute longer. My heart didn't race. My hands didn't shake. There was a time when I would have read a letter like that over and over, digging for deeper meaning. But not now. It felt like someone closing a door gently instead of slamming it shut. I folded the letter, slid it back into the envelope, and dropped it into the drawer with the spare keys and old batteries. No ceremony, no spotlight. Gonna write him back? Noah asked. Maybe, I said, but not today. Truth was, I didn't feel the need to, because somewhere along the way, I stopped trying to win him over. I stopped shrinking myself to fit into his idea of what a daughter should be. A couple months before that letter showed up, I'd spoken at a citywide emergency services ceremony, a big one full of brass and cameras. They gave out lifetime achievement awards, honored fallen responders, the whole thing. After my speech, I stepped down from the podium and started shaking hands, smiling for photos. Then I saw him, way back near the bleachers, standing straight, no hat, arms at his sides. When our eyes met, he lifted his hand in a formal salute. He didn't come over, didn't say a word, just held that salute for a few seconds, then turned and disappeared into the crowd. And that moment, not the letter, not the silence before it, that moment was enough. He saw me. Maybe too late, maybe not fully, but he saw me. Quick break. What would you have done with that letter? Let us know in the comments. After everything, I wasn't chasing anything anymore. I used to think closure would come from his voice, but it didn't. It came from standing where I am now, a woman who never backed down, who never folded, who walked through fire and built a name that holds weight. Not because he said it mattered, because I did. The mic felt heavier than I expected. I adjusted it once, took a breath, and looked out over the crowd. Every chair was filled, chiefs, directors, federal officials, training leads from departments across the country. Behind them stood a wall lined with uniforms. Paramedics, firefighters, dispatchers. My people. I started talking. I kept it simple. No fluff, no slogans. Just the truth. About the mistakes we made and the ones we learned from. About the calls that still woke me up at night and the ones that reminded me why I kept showing up. About leadership not being about control, but about responsibility. They clapped at the end, loud, standing, some even whistled. But I didn't really hear it, because in the far back of the room, standing near the exit like he didn't belong there, was my father. Full suit, silver hair combed back, arms at his sides. His posture was perfect, still the soldier. But there was no stiffness in his face, just stillness. He didn't wave, didn't nod. He just stood there and watched. I stepped down from the stage and worked my way through the line. Handshakes, questions, a few old friends from earlier posts. But my eyes kept pulling toward the back. By the time I reached the last row, he was gone. I figured that was it. But as I turned toward the hallway, he stepped out from the side, blocking my path. He didn't speak right away. He just looked at me. Not through me, not past me, at me. Then quietly, he said, "I'm proud of you." That was all. No, I should have said it sooner. No explanations. Just those 4 words. And for the first time in my life, I didn't question if he meant it. I didn't need anything else, because I already had the rest. My name, my work, my legacy. built with my own hands.